February 18th to order. Can we all rise for a prayer from Councilman Hendrickson?
Dear Lord, as we begin this meeting, we ask for your clarity and focus. Remove any distractions or confusion that may hinder our progress. Help us to stay focused on the tasks at hand and give us the insight needed to address every issue clearly and effectively. May our minds be sharp and our discussions fruitful. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, please.
Councilor Hendrickson.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini. Here. Councilor Nasuda. Here. Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. Here. Councilor Russo.
Here.
Councilor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Ungary. Here. Councilor Sakala. Here. And Councilor Crisati is absent. 10 members are present, 1 is absent.
Thank you, Sheila. In the event of a fire or an emergency, there are 2 means of exit in the council chambers. Exit out the rear doors and walk a safe distance away from the building, or exit through the side doors and go down 1 flight of stairs, out the doors, and a safe distance away from the building. Next is I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting for February 3rd, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Thank you. And the regular meeting of February 3rd, 2025.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Thank you. And we're moving on to special guests. Tonight, we have the honor to speak with Evan Voice, who would like to propose to the council an Eagle Scout project that he would like to do at the Shaker Park soccer fields. So, Evan, are you here? Come on up.
Good evening. I am Evan Voice, a sophomore at Enfield High School. I am an honors student and a member of the track and field and soccer teams. I am here tonight to discuss my design for the kick wall, which is a part of my Eagle Scout project. I am a Life Scout from Troop 108 and I've started my scouting career when I was only 6 years old. My Eagle Scout project is to restore the soccer kick wall at the Shaker Fields. It will consist of me sanding, painting the wall white, and adding some new designs with graphics to the front and the back, and constructing 2 buddy benches on both sides of the wall. My idea for the front of the wall will be the ESA logo, and the back of the wall will be accurate dimensions of the real soccer goal, so that kids can shoot on the goal while they're waiting for their game to start. And I've started playing soccer at Shaker Fields when I was 4 years old. Some history regarding the wall is that it was built in 2012 from a scout from Troop 108. His name was Austin Uhas, and he built the wall for his Eagle Scout project. Thank you for your time, and are there any questions?
Well, thank you very much. Questions? Councilman Russo?
Well, just to make a statement, I know he also came in front of the Enfield Soccer Association board and did a presentation similar to this one, and it has full unanimous approval from the soccer board. So I'm glad Evan chose us, chose Shaker Field and the kickboard. It definitely needs a enhancement. Evan comes from a great family. I see his father Keith is here to support him in the audience. I've observed the Voice family for the last 6 years involved with soccer in the community, and they're always giving back. Anytime you ask them to help, they're the first ones to step forward. So I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing this project progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. Evan. I certainly applaud you and support your efforts. I've known you for a few years now. God bless you. You do wonderful work in the community. You're a tremendous Boy Scout, and I wish you all the best in your project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mangini. Councilman Ludwig.
Welcome. So my daughters played there well, and as an adult who used to kick at the wall and miss, my question is with the benches now, just curious, where would they be? Because folks like me who would kick and miss, you know, and I know there used to be the picnic tables, right? I don't know if they're still there. I probably haven't been to Shaker in a little bit, right? That's where people what's your idea for the benches? Great project. I wish you the best. Just curious, what are you going to do with the benches?
So in the wall, there are little inlets on the sides. So you have the wall, then you have like two little inlets. They'll be going in the inlets, so like no balls can get like kicked at them, so they
very
can
cool.
like get ready for their soccer game.
And if you don't mind me asking, when would you start this project?
We were thinking to have the timeline having like fundraising go after this, and then it start at like April vacation, and then if not, it just gets pushed off to like the springtime.
All right. Well, again, best of luck.
Thank you.
Councilman Santinella.
Yeah, thank you. So fundraising, how are you going to raise funds and how can people contribute?
So some fundraisers are, I've started collecting bottles and cans, and can be donations if anyone would like to donate. And I'm also going to have a local, fundraiser at like a local restaurant. It hasn't been decided yet, and I can give you guys a date if you want, but that hasn't been decided yet.
And how much money are you trying to raise to be able to finish your project?
I think it's about $1,000.
$1,000. Okay, thank you.
So if you could get us a link or something, I mean, if a resident or a council member wants to donate to this cause, who would they make the check out to and where would it be sent? And maybe we could put this on the town manager's site and help you raise the money, because I'm willing to help with the cause. I'm sure Councilman Santinella is also. And let's get this done. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward, if you could just send us, a rough sketch and the colors of what you're thinking to do on them, so we have it, so we can look forward to seeing it in the spring. And obviously, I expect you to sign your work, and you've earned that. So thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Ungary.
Hi, best wishes on this project. To attain Eagle status is quite an accomplishment. They don't just give that away. I know you work really hard, put a lot of time and thought and energy into it, and with great support from your parents, and so congratulations on that. And I'm thinking of the few people off the top of my head who were Eagle Scouts is Neil Armstrong, Steven Spielberg, President Gerald Ford. So you're in good company, and who knows where your future will lead. So good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I thank you very much, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, the State of Connecticut assessment law changes. We have Victoria Rose, assessor, and Tyler Devine, assistant assessor. Come on up. Welcome this evening. You've got good news for us. Everybody's taxes are going down? No.
Some. All right, good evening. Is this thing on? All right. So my name is Tyler Devine. I am the assistant assessor here in town. And we are just going to be going over just a few law changes that affect the way we assess certain property here in the state of Connecticut and here in Enfield. So Senate Bill 501, Public Act 24-1. This is an act concerning motor vehicle assessments for property taxation. And sections 1 through 12 changes various laws on motor vehicle assessments and property tax billing procedures set to take effect October 1st, 2024. So these will go into effect, and you'll see the changes for your July 2025 motor vehicle tax bills. Senate Bill 501, Section 3, subsection 7, or you could find this in Connecticut General Statutes 12-63B7. For assessment years commencing on or after October 1st, 2024, the following schedule of depreciation shall be applicable with respect to motor vehicles based on the manufacturer's suggested retail price of such motor vehicles, provided no motor vehicle shall be assessed at an amount less than $500. So vehicles will now be valued by their MSRP and follow a depreciation schedule set up by the state, and no vehicle shall be assessed less than $500. All right, so here's the depreciation schedule that the state has come up with. So as you can see, up to 1 year, we are taking 85% of the vehicle's MSRP and going down 5% a year until we reach year 15, where the vehicle will be fully depreciated at 15% of the MSRP. 20-plus-year-old vehicles. So the schedule provides that vehicles shall not be assessed less than $500. This is not the same as the antique, rare, or special interest motor vehicle classification. Again, there's no additional depreciation applied after the vehicle is 15 years old. And then pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1271B, antique vehicles are subject to the $500 property tax assessment limit. The law requires a vehicle to be at least 20 years old, be of historical interest, and conform to the manufacturer's original specifications. So if a vehicle has antique plates on it, their assessment will automatically be $500. But we also have applications in our office for the antique vehicle exemption. And those applications just need to be filled out annually prior to December 31st. And just a small note, this is not a new law, but I figured since we're talking about motor vehicles, I should mention it. All right, so where are we getting the MSRP from? Connecticut General Statute 14-163 provides that the DMV will provide assessors with the MSRPs on or before November 1st and monthly thereafter, not later than November 15th. And the DMV currently utilizes J.D. Power and Associates for obtaining these MSRPs. Now, not all vehicles that we get from the DMV will come in with an MSRP. And for those vehicles, it's the assessor's responsibility for determining the values for those vehicles. And we utilize sources such as Price Digest to determine those values. All right, so how do we decide where the vehicle falls on the depreciation table? So our calculation is the grand list year minus the model year plus 1, and that will give us the age of the vehicle. So if a 2021 year vehicle is on our 2024 grand list, we're taking 2024 minus 2021 plus 1. So that would be year 4, which is 70% on our depreciation table. All right, and we put together just a few examples to show exactly how we're pricing motor vehicles moving forward with this new law, along with the impact that this is going to have on our assessed values. So if we look at our first example, this 2023 Chevy Blazer, the clean retail value for 2023 was $32,250. We then take that clean retail value, multiply it by 70%, and that gives us our assessed value of $22,580. Now, looking at our new valuation method for the same vehicle, The MSRP for this vehicle is $34,400. So we're taking the MSRP and we're multiplying it by 80% because we have to go back to our calculation, 2024 minus 2023 plus 1 equals year 2, which is 80%. So we take that 80%, multiply it by our MSRP, giving us $27,520. We then multiply that by 70% to give us an assessed value of $19,260. And as you can see in this example, the assessed value is decreasing by a little over $3,300 year over year, or down about 15%. Now, not all vehicles are going to be decreasing, unfortunately. So what we've been seeing is for vehicles that hold their value fairly well, such as trucks, we're seeing assessed values decrease quite a bit. However, on the flip side, for vehicles that don't hold their value very well and have high MSRPs, we're actually seeing an increase in assessed value. So in this example, our old valuation method for a 2013 BMW, the 2023 clean retail value was $7,825, giving us an assessed value of $5,480. Our new valuation method for this vehicle, the MSRP is $49,800. We then take the MSRP, multiply it by 30%, because this vehicle is in year 12, and that gives us $14,940. We then multiply that by 70%, giving us an assessed value of $10,460. So in this example, as you can see, the assessment actually increased almost $5,000 year over year, up almost 91%. So it's very vehicle specific on what we're going to be seeing with assessed value changes from last year to this year. So we want to make people aware that you could see these kind of wild swings in assessed value. Moving on to appealing motor vehicle assessments. So taxpayers still have every right to appeal their assessments on their motor vehicles. However, legislation states that vehicles are to be assessed based on their manufacturer's suggested retail price. So we are no longer valuing vehicles based upon fair market value. Assessors and boards of assessment appeals should not factor in high mileage or condition into the calculation of the assessments. And the only grounds for appeal for a taxpayer is if the assessor did not base the assessment from the vehicle's MSRP, or the taxpayer believes the MSRP is incorrect. And finally, the taxation for utility trailers, snowmobiles, and all-terrain vehicles. This is Connecticut General Statute 128182. Any snowmobile, all-terrain vehicle, or utility trailer used for personal use is now exempt from property taxation. And utility trailers include boat, snowmobile, ATV, and horse trailers not being used for business purposes. Trailers used for business purposes, for example, Code 10, which are commercial trailers, will still be liable to taxation. And if any taxpayer believes they have received a tax bill for a trailer in error, please come to the assessor's office just to fill out a quick affidavit just stating that the trailer is solely for personal use. And that's all I have for motor vehicles. I'll turn over to Vicki for veterans.
Hi, Vicki Rose. So I'm going to be going over the new veteran permanent and total disabled statute, Public Act number 24-46. An act establishing a property tax exemption for veterans who have a service-connected permanent and total disability rating. Subsection 83 was added, and as you know, laws can be hard to read, so the next few slides will help break it down for us. So the first, the basic requirements. The veteran must be a primary resident of the state, have served in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Air Force, or Space Force of the United States, includes National Guard, have a service-connected permanent and total disability rating as determined by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, comply with General Statute 12-95 and 1293, requiring an honorable discharge filed with the town clerk by September 30th, and submit proof of their disability rating as determined by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs to the assessor of the town in which the exemption is sought. So if the veteran owns a home and a vehicle in their name, the exemption will be applied to the home. If the veteran does not own a home in their name, but owns a vehicle in their name, it will be applied to the motor vehicle. If the veteran does not own a home or a vehicle in their name, a home or vehicle owned or held in trust for the veteran's spouse who must live with the veteran shall be exempt. When a veteran dies, property belonging to or held in trust for the surviving spouse shall be exempt as long as the spouse remains unmarried. And when a veteran dies, property held in trust for a minor child during their minority shall be exempt. So what is exempt? The dwelling that the veteran owns and uses as their primary residence. If the veteran does not own a dwelling, a motor vehicle garaged in Enfield. It must be an Enfield resident. A dwelling, does the dwelling mean just the house is exempt, not the land or any outbuildings? Yes. As of right now, just the house is exempt. A dwelling is defined as a building designed or used exclusively as living quarters and a place of residency by a person, family, or families. The law makes no mention of land or outbuildings. The filing deadlines are the same as the deadlines for veterans with disability ratings under Connecticut General Statute 1281-20. Proof of qualifying service must be filed by September 30th. And proof of their permanent and total disability must be filed by the deadline for the Board of Assessment Appeals to complete their duties, March 31st if the grand list is signed in January, or April 30th if the grand list is signed in February. There is no statutory requirement for an application to be filed to receive the exemption. Similar to applying for the regular veterans exemption, veterans are required to prove their right to the exemption under 12-95 and 12-93, and are required to file their disability rating if there is a change. There are some possible changes to 1281-83 that is in the House Senate right now. So Senate Bill number 1276 would authorize municipalities to disregard already published grand lists for the assessment years commencing October 1st, 2024, for purposes of adjusting and republishing said grand lists. So that could change the exemption for this year. It would amend 1281-83 that the veteran must be 100% permanent and totally disabled to receive the exemption. As of right now, it doesn't state 100%. It just says that they have to be permanent and total. Exempts the land up to 2 acres, adds Gold Star spouses who lose their spouse in war, includes dwellings on leased land, restricts the exemption to be used on any portion of the property used for commercial purposes or from which rental income is received. For example, if there is a 2-family, as of right now, the 2-family would be exempt, but if they were to pass this, then only the portion that the veteran resides in would be exempt, and then the other portion would not be. And it would add the property held in trust for the veteran. And there's a couple of other changes. Senate Bill number 1091 would increase the basic veteran exemption, and that would be for any veteran, from $1,000 to $20,000 off the assessed value. And House Bill number 6766 would require the town to make a payment to a veteran if their car value was lower than their exemption and they did not use all of their veteran exemption. So that's the end of our update. Thanks for your time. And do you have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, only because when you hear it all, it's very technical. I know you're going to have questions, but I'm just going to ask 2, I think, to put it in focus. Tyler, you did the first part on motor vehicles. It's kind of easy to understand. You went from fair market value, you're going to MSRP, and then if they're not listed, how you'll determine it. Have you looked, given your examples, do you have any estimate of what effect that will have on our collection of motor vehicle taxes, up or down, or it's too early to tell?
Overall, it's going down quite a bit.
What do you think? Estimate?
As of right now, it's going down about 56 million in assessed value for our motor vehicle grand list, which is about 15%.
Okay, so we'll lose in dollars, John. We've discussed it. Do you know what that is yearly? It's really a gap that we're going to have to fill because we're not going to collect that amount. We'll still have our expenses, but we won't have that as a revenue. John, what does that 15% about figure out to? We're not going to hold you to it.
That would be about $1.6 million.
Loss.
Right.
All right, and now, Vicki, in regard to, I know what you stated as the change, but could you just please articulate what the difference is and what it's going to cost us in extending this veteran benefit? And I think it really hinges mostly on the definition of previously totally disabled versus a permanent disability, which could be a smaller disability of a part of your body which didn't entitle you to it. So is that change? What do you anticipate the increase in the exemption and the dollars that it will cost us? Not cost us, but that we shall not collect.
So as of right now, it's about $11 million in exemptions. So there's about 99 veterans that have the P&T, and that's roughly $11 million.
$11 million.
Assessment, so.
All right, and so what would our loss be if
Well,
if
based
they
on the
apply?
current mill rate, it's about $336,000.
Less that we would collect than last year.
Right.
All right,
Based
so-
on the current mill rate.
Okay, so between the two, it's about $2 million a year that these changes will affect the town and its ability. So just so the public understands, it's laudable that they're doing this. They've talked about motor vehicle and equity for a long time. I know we all want to take care of our veterans, but I just needed you to be aware before when the public gets the tax bills for motor vehicle, most will be happy, I think, the majority. But in regard to veterans, they will be too. But we will have a $2 million shortfall that we've got to make up somewhere. And John will know better what our revenues are. Our revenues aren't going to be that amazingly increased, so it's going to be a matter of cutting something else. So we wanted to make it very clear, so when the budget comes up and this, is discussed, people will understand that this wasn't the Enfield Town Council that did this. It was the state and the federal government. So I just wanted everybody to be very clear on what the effect and the amount of the money we'll be losing as a result of these two pieces of legislation. Mr. Mayor, I turn it over to you.
So this is a perfect example of the state of Connecticut patting themselves on the back for giving the residents a tax break, but they didn't give them a tax break from the state. They're forcing the municipalities to do it to make us look like the bad guys. I have a couple of questions. It annoys me quite a bit. You get into the antique cars, they're $500. Why do they got to come back every year and fill out the paperwork? The car doesn't get any newer.
Well, it's because
That seems like a lot of extra work for your department, and it really is a nuisance to the taxpayers to have to do this. And I know we're having the same issue with the farmers. When they pass an appeal, they win, and then the next year it gets redone, and they got to start over and over and over again. I mean,
So for this in particular, so the law states for that antique classification, it requires the vehicle to be 20 years or older, which isn't going to change. It requires to be of historical interest. That shouldn't change from year to year. But it also requires the vehicle to conform to the manufacturer's original specifications. So if they change something major with the vehicle, then it would no longer apply as being an antique motor vehicle, as far as I understand it.
so if they do nothing, they still have to come every single year, otherwise they lose it.
They can put the antique plate on it.
Yeah, so that would be, so these are for vehicles
Oh.
that don't have the antique plate on
Okay,
it.
all right,
So-
okay, thank you. That
they have
that makes
the
a big
antique-
difference,
Yeah,
thank you.
If they have the antique plate on it, they're getting it automatically.
Automatically.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a
This is for
huge
vehicles that are 20
difference.
years or older that have just regular passenger plates on it.
Right, and most people would put the antique plates on. All right, thank you. Thank you, Vicki, that cleared it up. And then my last one is, Vicki, you had said that the veterans, exemption, which I think they should get, is only for the house, which I'm dead set against. It should be for the entire property, because whether we don't get taxes for the house or the land and we get taxes for the other, we still could take their home, and they should be exempt from it all. But you had showed a slide explaining it, and it said they're exempt up to 2 acres.
No, that's legislation that's on the books. That's not passed.
That's not passed.
Possible
Those
changes.
are possible changes to the.
So does this council have the authority to include the disabled veterans' land? These are people who fought for our country. They're disabled, and I think this law is put in place to make sure they always have a place to live and they're welcome in their community. And I think that's the least we can do.
I'm not a lawyer, but my interpretation, we can always do more than what the state statute says. I don't see why we couldn't. But go, sorry.
Tom?
If I may, Mark Serrato, I believe, has researched this to some degree, and I believe it's within the discretion of the assessors. So some assessors adopt Vicky's point of view, others adopt a different point of view, is my recollection of what he had come up with in his legal opinion. But I reserve the right to take a look at that and make sure my memory's right, and perhaps I don't know if Vicky ever discussed it with Mark or not, but.
We didn't get a legal opinion yet.
Yeah, well, it was inter-office is where it went. So I believe it was a veteran made a request. I think Councilman Russo had shipped it to us. And with regard to that request, part of it was he wanted his land included in addition to the house. And you had not included it. You had only taken the dwelling. And in reviewing the statute, it appeared as though you had discretion in terms of either way it could be interpreted, but that the way you interpreted it was okay with Mark, reviewed it with me, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. So your interpretation would stand. However, the statute would allow other assessors to make another determination, which would broaden it to include the land also. So it depends on each assessor, and that's part of the problem that Mark and I thought hopefully the legislature, perhaps Councilman Santinella, can make this part of your job to make
He
it
doesn't
uniform.
need to, because the council has the authority to do the whole property. And the assessor works for the council.
I'm talking about actually interpreting the statute.
I understand.
From where we are, and in terms of straightening out and making it clear so that it's uniform throughout the state is what Mark thought, and I agree with him. So perhaps that's my comment.
Right. No,
through
I'm
Councilman
totally
Santinella.
on board with you there, but I think at this point, I'm willing to make the concession that it's the entire property, the house and the land. And I don't know if I have support from the council to do this, but these are people who made it possible for us to sit here and have these discussions. And I want to make sure they always have a home to go back to every single day. And taxes put people out of their homes again and again and again. And this is a particular group of people that should be protected for the rest of their lives. Councilman Hendrickson.
Just a quick question on that. So can we wait until the Senate fixes the bill the way it's written, as the 100% or the total and permanent is fixed before you make that determination? That's all I'm saying. And the 336,000, is that before the fix?
Yes.
Okay, so are we going to, if they change it, though, it's going to be a big drop?
It's going to get worse.
Correct, okay.
All right. Anybody else? John? Marie?
Do you have something, John?
I have a question.
Just
Hold on, Cindy. Go ahead, John.
So, I mean, through the marriage as a town attorney, so this is obviously in the Veterans Committee. The fixes are being addressed, and I believe that they're moving forward to the floor for consideration. So that's all that I know about this. So those fixes are being considered. And some folks here were actually at a public hearing last week to discuss that. So, and to your point, I have no problem. I mean, right now I'm here worrying about the people of Enfield and what we do, and I don't have a problem making this applicable broader than what the state statute
The entire
allows.
property. Councilman, or Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Thank you for coming out and letting people know what's happening, because I've already gotten some phone calls from people on the veterans. I've already got phone calls from people on what's my taxes going to look like, which, you know, everybody's in a panic. I like the idea that somebody can still come and appeal if they have an issue with their auto. I agree with the mayor that I would like land included. But again, I'm also in agreement that I think we have to wait to see what legislature does. So that'll play out. I'm just hoping that, especially with the auto, we don't see all the reversals and all the appeals that we've seen in the last few years. I'm hoping that, I would love to have a year with 0 appeals. Just, well, you know, but again, I mean, I think we've gone through the reval. I think people have a good sense of what their property is. So I'm hoping that moving forward, I'm feeling really positive that we're going to make the taxpayers right, that they're not going to have to be coming back again and again. So that's my kind of little plea, because I've been hearing it from people already. So I'm just hoping that we have a more positive outlook on it.
So motor vehicles are assessed yearly. It's not like real estate. If someone goes to the board, it would stand, it can stand till the following reval, but motor vehicles are reassessed every year. So even if they go to the board 1 year and the board reduces it, it would go back to what the fair market value was, and now it's the MSRP.
Yeah, and this law makes it pretty clear cut, so.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Ludwig.
Again, thank you for being here. This is good. I don't know if this was through the mayor or through the town manager and assistant town manager for being here. This is a good idea to give the public the idea of what's changing, so thank you for being here. I got a couple questions. On the new grid, the depreciation grid, curious, is it short-term savings for long-term? So I did quick math on your example. After 15 years, so if I just use 20,000, say your value of today is 20,000 vehicle, you'd still be around 3,000 in 15 years, which feels. And then, you know, and I'm saying that because then when you made the presentation, I'm like, well, but then you can't come in for high mileage anymore. So it doesn't feel as a good a deal as it looks to me. And I'm not asking you to, I'm just saying there seems to be here a little sleight of hand by the state legislature, in my opinion. I'm just making a comment for you too, and I'm not asking you to comment on it. Because I saw it when your slide when it says you can't come in for high mileage. There you go. And so I guess I'll tie it to it. So how's this affect, I apologize if you don't know this, insurance rates now, right? So if you have a total loss, and if now we're assessing as a town based on, you know, the new MSRP, will that tie to if you have a total loss in an insurance? Is insurance falling, you know, so in your total comp, for example, did the state contemplate that when they did this? And if you don't know, that's fair, I don't expect, if you didn't know.
I don't know for sure whether they would, in my opinion, the fair market value is still out there. It's not, so J.D. Power is still going to be providing the fair market value as far as a loss or a total loss on the. This is strictly a value for assessment purposes only, from how I understand how it works.
Thank you. Again, fair. And to the mayor's point on the $500, even if you don't have, you know, the plate, is there a way that we can track that so we don't force people to come back in who don't get a plate? Again, I'm not an expert why you would get a plate and why you wouldn't, but it does seem sort of silly once you hit the 20 years that you have to keep coming back. And I think, I'll say this, it's a kind of a leap to think most people are going to hang on to their cars for that long now. Yeah, it would be great, but if you know what I mean? So I think it's rarer now where folks have a car for 20 years than it was maybe 10 years ago. So I'm just saying, I'm not asking, but if there's a way we could think about that as a town to help, so we're not forcing those people to come back in every year. And They may have their own reason why they don't want the plate. Again, I don't know exactly why they would or they wouldn't. Not an expert, but just something to think about. You don't have to answer me now if you don't want to. But again, so you don't have to keep going through it and the assessments every year. And, you know, we kind of build a little, okay, once someone gets there, some sort of a testament or, you know what I mean, where, I don't know, just an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and when they fill out the form, they are
Yeah.
attesting to,
Right.
you know, the check
Yeah.
boxes, they check it off, you know.
Yeah.
So they are attesting to it being an antique.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's something we can get.
Just an
rid of.
idea. I mean, try to help you guys a little bit, help the I don't know, just maybe come up with a solution for us at some point. Just an idea to throw out there. Yeah, lightens the load and, yeah.
All set, Mike?
Sorry, one last thing, and again, thank you for coming here. On the veterans, you know, I think it's great, and I don't disagree. I think when we went through some of this a couple of years ago, the council does have a right to pass a resolution to give you direction, as long as you're following the state law. And again, I remember going through this, we can, again, go above and beyond the state law as long as we're not violating, so meaning we're taking something away that the law is granting. So if we decided, not waiting for the state, the state bill, we wanted to do 2 acres, in my opinion, I'm sorry, going through this, we have every right to do that because we're still honoring the tax exemption. We're just making it more broader. And it's local taxes. So again, to the mayor's point, when everyone wants to talk about what's going on, the river, the stream comes downhill, and we're the bottom of the stream. And it's great folks are getting I mean, I'm all for taking, paying less taxes. But if that's the case, then we should have the right, and I think we do, to say, well, we want to make it a little broader than what even the state, it may pass, it may not pass. But I agree. I don't know the reason why we shouldn't have a resolution to contemplate. Not putting you on the spot. I'm just saying I think we should, because I think it's a good idea. And that's just, again, my opinion. But again, thank you. This is, again, I appreciate this. This is very helpful. And again, whoever's idea it was, this is exactly what we should be doing for our taxpayers. They don't have the chance or maybe even the time to know everything that's going on. And honestly, even when you're in politics, following all those bills, it's not easy. So again, I appreciate you doing this, because I think it's very helpful. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just request that we have an opportunity, Town Attorney's Office, to reduce our research on this legal opinion to writing, so that may help everybody in clarifying the issues, including what Mike just said too. Because when you have a statute that authorizes an assessor to use discretion, I think you have to be careful in terms of directing that assessor to that. But we should be able to clarify that for everybody, including the assessor, so that they know what the story is. And when you're talking about land with the house, you probably want to set some limit on it. Like if somebody's got a 100-acre farm, you don't want to exempt the whole 100 acres. Perhaps you want a building lot in that zone or something of that nature. But anyway, we'll be more than happy to conclude research and produce a written document on it for everybody.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Councilman Ungar.
Thank you for coming and giving your presentation. And Tyler, it's nice to see you. Mike took most of my questions and comments, but I did want to ask, why are you using the MSRP instead of the market value price?
Because that's what the law changed to. So previous years, we used fair market value. That was the state law. So they've changed the law now, requiring us to use the MSRP with that depreciation schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Through our mayor, to Vicki and Tyler, I just had a question regarding how we are assessing land and the house. And I think our town attorney touched on this. Are we making any changes to that assessment? I certainly support any resolution that we can create and vote on to support our veterans. Our veterans are really not given much in the form of revenue or help as a realtor, I have 95% of my business are veterans, and any way we can help the veterans, I think is extremely important. But just a little like clarity on, are we assessing the land separate from the house? And to our attorney, Tom, hit on that as well. Should there be an amount of acreage that is exempt? I'm not sure how we do this. Thank you.
Are you just speaking in general for how a property is assessed, or?
Yes. Yeah, in general, because I'd like to find out, once we get to helping the veteran through any type of a resolution, how is that, if it's going to benefit the veteran, with regards to offsetting some of the tax?
Yeah, so each person's house is broken down, or property is broken down, their dwelling, then you have your land, and then your outbuildings. So those get broken into 3 separate pieces that come together for your assessment of your property.
So essentially then, with a proper resolution being executed, we would be able, like our town attorney alluded to, work within the statute to assist the veteran with an offset for the house and the land.
The short answer, yes, and the town attorney, Cindy, has said that he is going to do and research that question in regard to veterans under these new changes, whether or not it's limited to 2 acres. What is the discretion of the assessor? The town has made it clear they'd like to do more for our veterans, and the town attorney is going to render a written opinion to guide all the parties. I would expect to have it by the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Cindy.
exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, can you hear us, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay,
Can you hear-
because,
can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you, but we explained all of this. And I'm not sure that you heard that Tom's going to do everything you asked, and Tyler answered the questions, and we're going to work on a resolution as a council to include the land. It doesn't matter what the state statute says. So.
No, I understand that. I was just looking for clarity on how it is currently broken down so that essentially it will benefit the veteran in the long run.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one other quick question for Tyler. What's the percentage of vehicles that don't have an MSRP that you are determining the value?
I couldn't really give you a percentage right now. Do you remember how many came through? Maybe 3,000 or so came through unpriced. 3,000 or so.
Okay, and those are probably going to be the ones that you're going to have appeals on? I'm taking it because you're coming up with the value on those?
Not necessarily. There's just certain vehicles that just don't come priced from them because of the way the system breaks up the VIN. So if an older vehicle doesn't have a VIN, if you were to go to a J.D. Power book, they don't have a VIN to reference. So we would go to the J.D. Power, and there would be an MSRP for a 1950 F-150 pickup truck, basically. So we would use the MSRP. And the same with camper trailers. They're not going to come priced from the DMV, but J.D. Power does have an MSRP for camper trailers. Big trucks, Class Code 2, commercial trucks. Price Digest has MSRPs for those. So we are using the MSRP, maybe for back ends of of trucks that, for an incomplete truck, we might not be using the MSRP, but we try to use it as best we can.
Thank you.
All set? Everybody all set? Well, I thank you very much. Good news for the taxpayers, absolutely. And thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, John. And I would just like to share with the council, in answer to Mike's question, it was John Wilcox's request and suggestion we do this because he knew it was going to have some big impact. So I thank him for that.
Thank you, John.
Next, public communications and petitions. Any person who wishes to address the council shall first be recognized by the chair and shall state their name and address for the record. They shall limit their remarks to 5 minutes. After each person who desires has had the chance to speak, those desiring to speak a second time will be permitted to do so and shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. During public communications, item 7 on the agenda, public members shall limit their remarks to 2 rounds of 8 minutes. Total. During public communications, item 16 on the agenda, if prior to 11 p.m., each person shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Public communications shall be limited to 1 hour unless extended by a majority vote of the council. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual council member. All remarks addressed to the administration of the town shall be addressed to the town manager and not an individual employee. Public members shall observe proper decorum and good conduct and shall refrain from personalities and improper language. Who would like to come up? Mr. Zanoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm appreciative of that insightful presentation from the assessor, though. I got to be honest, it feels like the wrong time to have bought a Cadillac, given the luxury vehicles are not going to do so well with this. My question is a relatively light question. I was down in the Enfield room last week, and I noticed that the placard with the individual counselors has been taken out, but I also don't know if it was up in the lobby. I don't think I saw it up there. And I know when I was here a few months ago, I had asked that I think it's important that the pictures of the council and that the placards are brought up here for public viewing, because when you do volunteer, it's one of the few pieces of recognition that you get to keep for years and years and years. So I think it's something that we need to do and bring it up here, and I don't think there has been too much movement on that. And I also know that the placards have not been updated in almost 10 years, so it could be something we could address. That's the only thing that came to mind that I just wanted to talk about. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Pam Townsend, 54 Kimberly Drive. I am representing the John Micholik American Legion Post 154. And I'd like to share with you that on February 9th, Post 154 hosted a mass in remembrance of 4 chaplains. The chaplains provided spiritual support and eventually their own life jackets as their troop ship sunk. I had the honor of reading a poem written by one of the survivors and a Bristol, Connecticut resident about an American hero who happened to be Black. And in celebration of Black History Month, I would like to read his poem tonight. In remembrance of Charles W. David, who helped save survivors of the USS Dorchester, that was torpedoed and sunk on February 3rd, 1943. Charles W. David served in World War II, was assigned to a Coast Guard ship. He never knew what lay ahead when the Dorchester made its final trip. Charles was serving on the Comanche when the troop ship took a hit. The crew of the Comanche cutter all wanted to do their bit. Lieutenant Anderson went into freezing water to lend a survivor a helping hand. The survivor pulled him under. That's when Charles David took his stand. Charles dove into the freezing water, broke the survivor's stranglehold. He saved the lieutenant and the survivor and brought them out of the cold. Some will always remember Charles David, his family, a long time after cried. This Black American hero saved 2 white men, after which he got pneumonia and died. This is the story of an American It's true his skin was black. All that's left of him are memories, for Charles will never come back. There are thousands who served America, so many black and white are dead. Blacks like Charles W. David proved that all people's blood is red. Now you are gone from this earth, with you goes family and shipmates' love. You have journeyed to the great above, your home is somewhere up above. This is where the story ends. Charles David is forever free. He did his part for fellow men, now gone for all eternity. Written by Walter S. Miller, February 1st, 1991, survivor, USS Dorchester. And Walter used to come to Post 154 in the chaplain's mass each year until he passed away. And I'd like to remind everybody that next month is Women's History Month, so maybe we can all check out some of the women that have made some amazing history for the United States. And I'm having a display put up in the library, so go over and check it out. Thank you. Have a good night.
Which library, Pam?
The main library.
Yeah. Thank you. Would the Enfield mayor like to come up and speak now?
Hello, Town Council. I am here to talk to you about how hard of a school year it has been so far.
Cooper, I just need your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Cooper McIntosh, and I live at 5 Gary Road.
Thank you.
Hello, Town Council. I am here to talk to you about how hard of a school year it has been so far. The budget cut has deeply impacted our schools because I used to be in a class with at most 17 kids. It was a good year. But now having 17 to 30 kids in a classroom is a nightmare. I am not just speaking for myself. I think about all the kids who have social anxiety and how hard it is for them to be in a class with 30 kids. It must be a struggle every day. I think about the kids who need help if they are having a hard time in a subject, but didn't get it because there are so many kids the teacher has to help. And our teachers, one day is like working double overtime. Again, a very hard struggle each day. Lastly, I will share my struggle. In school, there are so many kids that it can be hard to participate in the lesson or the lesson that we are learning, or ask questions. And sometimes I get in trouble for something that I didn't even do, because it can be hard to see who is truly misbehaving, and it can be hard to include every kid in the room. So I feel like I am not getting the best education. Please make our schools good again for the students and the teachers, so kids want to go to school and don't want to fake sick and stay home. Thank you.
Thank you, Cooper. Angela?
Oh, goodness gracious. Wow, that was hard. Angela Foss, 16 Crescent Beach Drive, Enfield, Connecticut. So, you've seen the Board of Education budget. You've seen the ask. You've heard the challenges the teachers and the staff have had so far this year because of the budget that I fought so hardly for last year. You've had 1 year to think about the impact. You've had 1 year to listen to parents and children. I'm sure they've reached out to you. I haven't, because I was very, very hurt, because I felt like there was going to be some kind of something that would happen, that you would maybe have some kind of an increase, maybe you would see something. But the answer was that you couldn't make an increase because you had run on that platform. So here we are in another year, and I'm sure you've run on that same platform. And we're living it. Like, you're more than welcome to come into my classroom and see what we are living. We're living it. And the children are not getting the education that I dreamed for them, you know? So, and at Parkman, there are 3 grade 5 teachers. There were 5 before. There are 3. One had 30 students in the classroom. The other had 29. The other 2 had 29. And the bodies are too big. The children aren't getting any attention. The children are trying really hard to learn, and they've lost a year of education. The teachers are doing all they can. So I know you already have your plan. I don't know what it is, but whatever that plan is, please share it with the superintendent so he can have a lot of forethought and know what needs to be done to best meet the needs of our children. It's all about the children. Maybe you need to, I don't know. I mean, there's another $2 million missing, another $2 million. And I know you're in a tough spot. And I even listened to Carol Hall, who said, I'm going to keep Enfield whole, and I'm going to give you $29,823,645. It doesn't keep us whole. Nothing's going up. It stays the same. It's flat. Yeah, we're not losing anything, but it's staying flat. We're not increasing. So yes, the state is a concern too, but I don't know. I really feel for you guys. I don't know what you're going to do, but please do what you can to get us our teachers back. The children need to have class sizes like they'd always been promised. We never ever had class sizes above 25 as long as I've been teaching here. And so anyway, thank you for all you do. I know you have a plan. If you could share it with the superintendent so it's not going to be like a shock like it was last year, I would really appreciate it.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Councilman Communications? Councilman Santinella?
Can you pass on me? I'll come back if I need to.
Councilman Sakala? Nothing? Councilman Nasuda?
I know it was a rough storm this past weekend, and the roads, the shape of them are really in rough shape. But I'd like to thank the DPW for putting that cone in that large pothole on Lafayette Road, as the resident nearby was collecting a lot of hubcaps on his lawn. So I'd like to thank the DPW for putting that cone in the pothole. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Councilman Russo?
Good to see our kid mayor, Cooper McIntosh. It takes a lot of courage to get up there and speak, and you did a great job speaking, so well done. That's all I have.
Councilman Ongara? Councilman Hendrickson?
All right, just a couple things. I know all the ice and snow out there is not thinking spring, but I am thinking spring. So I did ask about Enfield High, where we're at the drainage, and I haven't heard back. Also, Powder Hollow, are they playing baseball there in the spring or not? Also, Simon Road sewer pipe update, is that done? Paid for, where we're at with that? And I guess I haven't seen a PAR in a couple meetings, so I'm looking forward to the next PAR. That's it?
PAR?
The project.
Oh.
Activity project. Isn't that the PAR? Yep. Isn't that the PAR?
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Thank you.
Yeah, but residents don't know the abbreviations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for
I said that
clarifying
for
that.
them. Councilman Ludwig?
I'll be brief. I just want to be clear. I mean, I have a plan, but I mean, we're going to work with the Board of Education, and we always have. Again, we covered almost a $6 million loss that they overspent their budget. Everyone just seems to just forget that, and it's not a big deal. I mean, you have a budget. Everyone lives within a budget. And folks can, no matter what it is, and when you spend more than you take in for revenue, you've overspent your budget. You can spend it any way you want. That's the reality of it. This council covered it. We covered the cost of security, which is now well over $1 million. So again, they end up getting close to what they asked for. They just got it broken out between 2 years. I mean, we're hearing, again, you see, everything flows downstream. There's only so much we can tax our residents to be able to afford to live here. And I appreciate it, and I'm willing to talk about anything, but for me, when it comes to this, I want to change the conversation. When we start talking about spending more money for education, I want some outcomes. I want to be a high-performing district. I don't want to just say we need to spend money without having an outcome. I want to be a top district. I want to know what the number is that gets us there. I have to be upfront. We hear this all the time with just more money. Well, again, we've already shown, I mean, if you've been following anything that's going on with the federal government, we spend more money than we ever have in education, yet we're one of the least performing countries in the world. So it's got to be something more than money. And I'm willing to have that debate, but I mean, we need to expand it more than just whatever's in a budget. We need to actually, what are we doing? What's the outcomes we're doing? And how we're achieving them. And if we are going to spend more money, there has to be some accountability to that. Especially because we can't run a deficit in the town of Enfield, and we can't pass it to the next level of government because we are the bottom level of government, and everything stops here. And again, everyone dismisses, but we've been underfunded. The state has underfunded special education for years. And in fact, it's one of the lowest levels, I think, this year than it has been in many years. We cover that budget. We're going to be covering the shortfall, or we're going to be covering the tax break with the veterans. We're going to cover it on the assessment for the cars. We covered it with the senior tax credit 10 years ago. We cover it all the time, but there gets to a point in every budget when how much more can you cover without making it affordable to live in the town of Enfield? And that's the balance. I wish we could change the conversation and start saying, let's look at outcomes on money we're spending, because that's what it needs to come to. Not just, hey, I need more money. Because, there's a balance here that has to be reached. And I think we have to start changing. And I'm more than willing to talk. We've talked in public. We'll do it again. We're not trying to, we will include the superintendent as we did last year and the year before and the year before that. We've always worked very well with any superintendent, any Board of Education. And this council, and we're allocating, or we're moving forward with a $170 million referendum. One of the biggest referendums, actually is the biggest referendum this town has ever done in our history. How much? We spent $100 million on a high school. We spent $70 million on a middle school. We spent money on roofs. We're spending money on gyms. Again, the Enfield taxpayer. I wish some folks would just give. I don't care about the council. The Enfield taxpayer some credit that they have funded education. I understand it may not be at the level some folks want, but again, they have stepped up continuously over the years, and when this referendum for the elementary school eventually gets there, they probably will step up to there as well as they have with the high school and the middle school. Again, I just want to start having this conversation where it's got to be more about just money. Let's start having some outcomes. Let's start putting some goals together, so when we do spend money, we can tell the public we achieved X, Y, and Z. And again, that's what I want to start having a conversation of, other than just coming here and telling us we're not funding you enough money, when again, the state continues to pass the buck to us, and we have to balance that. And I understand everyone wants to dismiss the state's role here, and that's fine. But again, we're the ones that have to be the balance of the scale. And it's not easy. And again, but we're willing to do it. And again, we cut on the town side. I think we actually cut our budget last year overall. So, the town actually cut its budget, including all our capital projects. So to say that we're not funding something is not true. We're willing to have the conversation, and the proof is in the pudding, because we did cut our budget. We didn't just say, okay, we're going to cut the board, but we're going to ask for a 4% increase or a 5% increase on a town. We did not do that. So again, there's a balance between everything. And I think we need to start having that conversation more than, I just want more money. Sorry, and on a positive note, I just want to highlight my neighbor. I'm not going to say his full name, but I'm going to say Ricky. Great job. To his credit, he went and snowblowed like 4 of my neighbors. And you know what? That's what makes Enfield great, is that we help each other out. This was a tough storm. It was, the snow was heavy. And again, to all the neighbors out there that helped their fellow neighbors out, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Councilman Santinella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I don't want to have a debate about education right here. I think we should probably just do that. We should probably set some time when all we're going to talk about is education, but I think that that is just a distortion of where we are and the truth. The fact of the matter is, I will say this, we did raise funding for our schools a couple of years ago. Our scores went up, and the proof is in the pudding. And if we want to talk about where we stand versus other districts, and you want to know what it costs to educate kids these days, we're not in the top anywhere near close. But I just think that there's this perversion that we're doing everything that we need to be doing. When you have the kid mayor sitting here telling you he's having a hard time learning. I mean, it's ridiculous. And we're going to, I'm going to stop, and then you're going to come after me that, like I'm supposed to solve all the problems. Look, I'm going to say this right now, and you could like it or not like it. We need to raise taxes and fund our schools, period. And I'm willing to run on that. And I think that there's parents and 5,000 kids. I'd rather have 5,000 kids that don't vote cheering me on than adults who just don't want to pay for their education. It's ridiculous where we've gotten. And you're not listening. You're not listening. And I'm sick and tired of you pretending that you've done all these wonderful things. Our kids are falling behind. Our kids are falling behind, Mike. Don't shake your head that they're not.
John,
they are.
Stop addressing another council member and state your point.
I'm done.
And move on.
I'm done.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Okay. Thank you, Cooper. I know it takes a lot of courage to come forward, and I do appreciate you coming forward tonight. Pam, thank you for reading that poem. I was at the Four Chaplains Mass. Pam read it. I approached her after Mass and said, is there any way that we can have that read tonight? And Pam graciously came and did it. I actually did share that poem with Rosalind Swift and Chad Woodyard. This weekend, on Saturday, is Black History event happening at our library. And I'm bad. It's either starting at 10 or 11 and goes until 3 or 4. I'm planning on getting over there at some point during the day, but if anybody does want to go over, it is at the main library this Saturday. Angela left, so.
Of course she did.
One of the things I wanted to say, and I haven't said a lot about the education budget and whatever, and people, I do have to agree with Councilor Ludwig on this. We don't have a number. Like, we cannot just write a blank check and not know where it's going. And I do believe the state has some fault in this. And Representative Hall sat through a budget meeting, and she did make a post the other day, and the state budget director from OPM, her words were exactly that: towns need to start filling in the gap. So that means the state wants to just sit back, but yet continue to throw mandates on us that we have to fund. You can't do it all. It's like the state coming in and saying, you need a brand new roof, but we're not going to pay you to do the roof. Well, you're a homeowner. Where do you get the money to do the roof? So it's maddening. And there's not one of us up here that wants to see classrooms of 29 or 30 kids. Not one of us. But it's a balance. So now I'm going to get into a couple of other things. I wasn't even going to talk about that one. From our mayor through our town attorney, Tom, last meeting we talked once again about the amount of cannabis dispensaries. And we got an email from Mark Serrato saying that the state will allow us to have as many as we want. I think we had pretty much consensus as a council that we're fine with capping it. So if you can just give us some direction on how we move forward to put a moratorium in so that we can cap this and be done with it, I would appreciate it.
We did do some research on it, and prior to my being here, the Planning and Zoning Commission back about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, enacted regulations regulating the recreational marijuana use in Enfield, and it was pretty comprehensive. They filed, let's see, they called it Section 8.2 of their zoning regs, and it was filed back on May 17th of 2022. It's 6 pages, and it talks about the purposes of the regulations and so on. and they set forth what the zones could be. They set forth separation requirements for production facilities in other words, how close could they be to a residence or to any residential use or to an existing dispensary and so on. They also regulate dispensing facilities that can't be located within so many feet of all of these things. They talked about not locating them near schools, public buildings, public parks, and so on. They have parking requirements. They talked about the odor, water use, noise abatement, external equipment screening, site lighting, traffic, fire, and security. In other words, it was everything you would want to take a moratorium for in order to collect your information and address has actually been done with planning and zoning about 2.5 years ago. They also then enacted a regulation text amendment, and the purpose of that was in case somebody wanted to modify any of their existing approvals, that they had to jump through a bunch of hoops there also. And they put a prohibition on the ZBA granting any variance and anything about the separation distance. So this is quite extensive and comprehensive, what planning and zoning has already done, which I believe addresses the concern that you would normally have with regard to a moratorium. So to try to get a moratorium now, you can enact one, but if somebody does contest it, they'd probably win because there's no valid reason for a moratorium. Now, but to follow up on that also, previously you had asked for some help in drafting an ordinance or a resolution regarding the use of tobacco or cannabis on public spaces and buildings, and Mark had sent that on about January 15th to the Assistant Town Manager's office. So with that being said, I don't know what else you would like us to do beyond that.
When that moratorium was written, if I'm correct, the state then said we would only get 2.
And
the state has now changed that and said towns can get as many as they apply. My thing is, I don't want dispensaries all over town. I don't want it to be like all the vape shops we have. So I'd like something that says we're happy with the 2 we have. If a cultivator would like to come in, that would be good. It's something different. But I would like to stop it or cap it at the amount that we have.
Well, we do a resolution on whatever you want. Whether it's going to stand up to any attack is another question. So if you wanted to do a resolution, then just say whatever you want for the resolution, and we'll try and handle it as best we can. But the fact that the state lifted the lid on the 2, I think is basically they've decided that it's supply and demand and letting the economy handle it. And basically, like a lot of them in Massachusetts, we see them failing and dropping out because there's just not the demand for the supply that's there. So, but hey, we'll do whatever you want to do with it. But we need guidance from the council in terms of then do we have consensus to have 3, 4, 6, or just 2, or whatever you want to do. Okay. But I'm telling you, it's whether it would withstand litigation is highly doubtful because all of these public health safety concerns have already been addressed through planning and zoning, other than, if you wanted to set the number. So
okay.
If you want to set it, go right ahead. You got every right to do that. Okay.
I also have a bit of exciting news for Enfield. So I'm going to end it on a really good note. So today, I was sent an email that finally the Carnegie Pearl Street Library is on the National Register of Historic Places to Visit. And this has been a long time coming. We had prior staff and our current staff, Christy and Aaron, who have been working tirelessly to get this to happen. So I did a little bit of history on it. And for those of you that don't know, that the original library was built in 1914 here in Enfield by Andrew Carnegie. He went on to build 1,700 libraries in Connecticut, out in Connecticut, in the USA, and 800 of them still stand. He did a total of over 2,500 in the whole worldwide, which I found fascinating. He had a fixation with books and thought everybody needed to read. And he blessed our town with this library, his own funding, $20,000 in 1914. So I am thrilled that it is in our town, that we appreciate this, that our staff has gone over and above to get us named into the registry. And from what I'm hearing, there will be a celebration to follow this sometime in the spring. So if you've never gone into that library, please take a walk through it. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of history. So thank you.
Thank you.
No, Cindy.
Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. Just a couple of items. One, with the foul weather that we've been having, I think that it's important for people to be considerate about double parking. I know on my street, Glendale Road, we've had many issues with the double parking. With the double parking in bad roads, that will affect emergency vehicles, and it's a problem. It's not just Glendale Road. There are other roads in town, but I'm using my road as an example because I noticed, vehicles trying to get down and they'd have to weave in and out. I thought, what if a fire truck had to get down or emergency vehicle? That's a little bit discerning. So I'd like to encourage people to please be aware with the bad weather that it's not really appropriate to double park if you can help it. The other comment that I just want to make is that I know it's not budget time yet. We haven't been presented with the budget, but I do have to say that, as far as children coming forward, students, and complaining that they're not learning, that sends up a red flag, number one. And beyond that, these teachers, these educators are there with passion, dedication. Children are not numbers. They are people. They're our future. And beyond the dollars, what we need to do as a community is to support these children. And the way we can support them, obviously, is to fund their education. So again, I strongly want to say that in my defense, my opinion, when it comes to the budget, I'm definitely going to support what it's going to require to help fund our education system, because we've decimated it. And that is totally wrong. And it hurts so bad to hear, not only from the teachers, but for these kids that are coming forward and making statements. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be so positive tonight. First, what is it going to take to get enforcement of the cars and the sidewalks that aren't shoveled in this town? There's cars still parked on the roads covered in snow that the plows had to go around and they weren't towed. They need to be towed. There's sidewalks on the corner of High Street and Pearl Street, one of our biggest walking areas, that aren't shoveled. And now they're frozen solid and somebody's gonna break an ankle. Route 5, that gas station that has graffiti all over it, and we've been complaining about it for over a year. The sidewalks aren't shoveled. How come they're not getting a fine? How come they're not blighted properties? I'm tired of exceptions for certain people in this town, and it's gotta stop. Our police department should be unleashed on these people who don't shovel and people who don't have the common courtesy to get their cars out of the road. Because when we try to go by, I don't know how a plow truck gets by. When I try to go by in my pickup with a plow, it's very hard to get by. And then you got to run up on the other side that's frozen solid. It's ridiculous. And if somebody wants to come complain that their car got towed, that's on you. You should have followed the law and moved your car and had common courtesy for your neighbors. And I'm sick of it because it's all over town. And, you know, we wait until the middle of a snowstorm, and then our police departments try to be the good guys and sound off the alarm. Hey, wake up. You got to move your car. No, when the blue light goes on, cars should get towed. Our police officers should not have to get out of their cruisers and trace through this snow trying to track down an inconsiderate person who won't move their car. That's on them. That's not on our police officers. So I say we start enforcing the rules we have. I don't care who you are. It's got to happen. And the sidewalks, Route 5, they're not shoveled. Pearl Street, all over town, bits and pieces. People are calling us, yelling at us. We have the rules in place, but they're still not getting shoveled. What happened to DPW shoveling them and charging the residents by the foot? And now it should be double because they're frozen solid. So we used to do it. I don't know why we're not doing it now. Angela Foss, you're not a victim, all right? You're not. I'm sorry. You want to say that we ran on a platform but failed to mention we gave the board the largest amount of money ever in the town of Enfield between security, the $6 million bailout, and a 2% increase, okay? We can sit here and say that under the other leadership, the board did better. Well, they only gave them a 2 and 3% increase. Why didn't the board ask for 8.5% under the previous majority? We couldn't go back. We could never lower the budget because of ECS. So they ask the previous council for 3%. They get it. Then they come and ask us for 8.5% plus $6 million to bail them out, plus another $1 million for security. And we're the bad guys? I don't think so. So people can come up and they can make, you know, this big show that they're the victims when they had the opportunity to make a change and they didn't. Well, we had to clean up the mess, and we did, and I'll do it again. And you want to know the biggest embarrassment right now in this town is our Board of Education. They hired a superintendent who I think is very capable of doing his job. And the man has been more transparent with this council than a lot of people I've dealt with on the board. He presents a 5.6% budget. And he said, I have a plan. I have a plan. It'll work. It's a long-term plan. We're in the middle of school modernization, moving to 3 schools. He said his budget at 5.6% brings back 11 to 13 teachers. So he has positions that he wants to fill. And he guaranteed not one class in this town would be over 25 students. He has a plan. But the people who are challenging him, they just want 95 positions. They can't even say what they're for. And I have not seen the Board of Education come up with one cost savings thing on their own. They've had a year to make adjustments. God knows we had to make some serious adjustments in the last year to cover this deficit. And we just heard from the assessor, we're already $2 million in the hole walking into this. And then the board's not happy with 5.6? Bring us 10, bring us 20. That the more you bring us, the better off it's gonna be for us, because you know it's not gonna happen. I give the superintendent 100% credit for trying to get a realistic budget that everybody can deal with. Okay? People don't like cutting the Board of Education. Well, people don't like paying taxes either, and there's got to be a balance in this town. And that is our job as the fiscal body of this town, is to keep a balance. We could have the best education in the world, but what good is it if you can't afford to live in this town? And I'm sick of it. Teachers Union, come at me. You can post on Facebook, start coming to the council meetings. Bring it on. I love it. It drives me. It's what I like to deal with. So I don't care. Put your union president up against me again this November. I am talking
point
to
of
the
order. You don't
teacher who
need to.
came
It's
and
not a back and
challenged.
forth. No.
She
Be respectful.
challenged us.
Be respectful.
I am respectful, but when she wants to tell one side of the story, Gina, okay, she said it was political, correct?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Angela Foss.
That is not who you would just talk.
Okay, so anyways, that's where I'm at. So I'm all set. Thank you. Moving on to town manager report and communications.
We'll take a breath, all of us. So, in regard to a couple of the matters, I have the assistant manager just confirming. It's always a confusion about the sidewalks, the clocks, the towing, and the plying. So we've been making efforts, and we've been hearing the same thing, and a lot of people don't like to make a complaint. They want it anonymous because it's their neighbor and they want to have good relations, even though the person doesn't shovel their sidewalk and puts them at risk. But be that as it may, that's human nature. But the one thing, and you've mentioned a couple of properties, one on Route 5, it's a strange thing. It's posted. I'm going to post it again tomorrow. We did a whole matrix of the sidewalk when that clock starts. Basically, this is the rule of thumb. The storm, our guys are out there plowing, clearing, cleaning. Then DPW decides, okay, we're going to start the 24-hour clock. When they start that clock, you have 24 hours. You have till the next day to do it. So the property you referenced, they're watching, as a matter of fact, but they have till 3 o'clock tomorrow. We can't even issue citations on people until that time is run out. It isn't a perfect system. Around, I think, Thanksgiving, there was a holiday. DPW was gone. They didn't even post it, so we didn't pursue it. But I'm going to have a report from Donald, because when I was here in the past, we had a lot of liens for shoveling. We went out and did it. So we'll get to the bottom of, the deputy manager, I think, or deputy assistant manager has an answer. We'll let him go in a moment. But we do try to stay on top of it. It's not easy, especially during the storms when it all comes at once. But I take it seriously too, Mr. Mayor, and we don't want people hurt unnecessarily. It's unforgivable. So we'll look at it. If it needs tweaking, maybe we have to do more patrols or have more people to go out there. But ultimately, if we shovel it, we put the lien, or they pay for it. So it's, it's cost neutral to the town. In regard to your questions, Mr. Hendrickson, thank you for reminding me. Donald's not here, so I can throw him under the bus. He's usually here, but I do recollect that I'm saying that lovingly, Gina. Our director meetings are the next morning, and I do believe, and Steve confirmed, we asked him to check those 3. They have been very busy, but we'll get an answer. I'll bring it up again tomorrow, and we'll get that out to the whole council. He's usually very, very good, but I think probably with the storms and some other matters that you're aware he's been tending to, he's been quite busy. So I think that probably is the reason. Because 100 out of 100 requests of him, he comes through in a timely manner, as you are aware. And I think that's it. I will just say, so that you are aware, last year I did sort of a preface to the budget to show you how all the costs had increased to such a large degree and what we would be in for. Nothing has markedly changed from last year. We're in the same boat. We all know it. Inflation's still here. Fuel prices, we don't know. Healthcare, it's still continuing to go up. We have that perhaps up to $2 million deficit. But again, these are the challenges of every council and every manager every year or every 2 years, right? They change. But you're always going to have these demands on your budget and never enough money. No, I'm not going to say anything. I was going to say, I've always argued, I know what we can do with $1 million in this town, and it just hurts me, and I don't know to the extent that all of the reports are true about, aid being spent in this country and other places in the tens of billions of dollars, and there's no accountability. It breaks my heart, because every one of our problems would be solved. The money, what we could do with parks and education and buildings, if we invested in this country, it is unbelievable. So I hope that comes to fruition over the next couple of years, that maybe they can start, as you said, Mike, everything's down. They continue to put mandates on us. They continue to cut taxes, but it's on our dime, and we're just supposed to make it up, because they're not sitting in front of residents like you are every 2 weeks. They're not in the battle. They're in the Capitol in Washington or in Hartford. Nobody knows where they are. Not being fresh, we know where John Santinella is because he's good enough to come here and visit us, so we know he's our rep, but he's also here. But most of them, they don't serve on this local level, so they don't get the incoming that we do. But we are expected to solve all of the problems, and we're the least equipped to do it. But we continue to try, and Enfield does a magnificent job. And I thank all of you. And you know what? So there's a little passion. Look at me. I'd be the pot calling the kettle black, you know, if I didn't blow off a little steam now and again. And you all believe so passionately. You give so much. I know Marie's laughing. She told me the other day in the meeting, she said, Chris, your face is red. Take it easy. Right, Marie? I think she saved my life. But no, it happens, folks. So I'm just saying, let's move past it. We all have good intentions. We're all trying to do the best with what we have, and they don't give us a lot to do it with sometimes. So I think everybody has the best interest of the town, the students, the seniors, and everybody else. And we're committed to try to do our job on the town side with the resources we have. But I've started the budget. We meet with the superintendent. I meet with my directors. We're inputting all of the data. We're getting all of the costs. I'm going to print out this week the schedule for you. We start from when the budget has to be adopted. I think this year it has to be by May 16th. Then we'll work back to your deliberations, to the public hearing, to the presentation, and we're going to work very, very hard. I'm going to follow the template I did last year. I'll take the superintendent's budget. We'll look at it. I'm going to hold on it. I'll consult with staff. We do have leadership meetings between the Board of Ed and the council, and I'll get direction like we did last time, and we'll work it out together and hopefully come to the best product that we can for the people in this town. So thank you. And I have to tell you, I have been here 35 years, and I don't know, it's tough to leave. And it's because of you, it's because of the residents, it's because of the community that we have in this town. And it doesn't affect me when people raise their voices a little. Like Mike and I said, it means you believe and you care. And as long as afterwards we shake hands and we're still friends. But I love this town. I love being here. I thank you for the opportunity you've given me as public safety, as town attorney, as manager. I never thought when I became a lawyer that would be my professional career, but I'm so thankful that it is. I'm blessed, and I thank all of you for your support and everybody in this town for supporting me in all of the roles that I've had, no matter what. And some people say it's a thankless job. It's not. It's tough, but it's the most rewarding job in the world. And I thank you for it, and I thank the people of Enfield.
So I just, on that note, again, I want to thank you, Chris, because Chris has agreed again to stay. He's working with HR and the assistant town manager, Steve Belinda, on getting applications in. I believe the deadline is the end of this month, and Chris has said he will stick around a little bit longer. I think it's because he loves us, but, again, Chris, I can't thank you enough. You've been here every time we've called, and you're not leaving us hanging, and I really appreciate it.
And I just want you all to know that I thank Eric Bednar when he did the article because I wanted you all to know I wouldn't just leave. But I needed to start the process because I know some of you, not all of you, would like me to stay. And I think they just didn't want to deal with it. But I didn't want to leave us in the lurch in November. We had to start the process. We're out there. We're getting applicants. I'll work with you. We're doing the budget. I want a seamless transition. I want our future manager, to be watching us on TV right now saying, that's the town I want to go to. And I think we're going to get a really good person. So I thank you. And whether it's a month or 2 or 3, we will get there. And I assure you, for those who are counting.
No.
For those who are counting, it will happen, Gene. I'm not.
November 6th.
That sounds like that new depreciation sale there.
So thank you all so very, very much.
All right. Steve?
Thank you. A couple of things. One, just to address what Zach Zanoni said earlier. The mayor's way ahead of you because he was in our office about 3 or 4 months ago and raised the same issue about the placards. So they are being updated as we speak. For whatever reason, updating the placards was orphaned, I think, during COVID, and the vendor went out of business, and it took a critical eye to look at it and say, how come we haven't updated it? And we are expanding that board because we ran out of space. So you will see a brand new board. Hopefully soon. I will talk to Cheryl to see where we're at on that, but I know they are working on it as we speak. Secondly, I did talk to Donald Nunes when I stepped out of the room. And you are correct, Mayor. We do shovel the storms after 24 hours after the storm has ended, but it's complaint-driven. So if someone reports it through SeeClickFix, they get it. They are out there shoveling. We received about 10 requests, and they've been doing it. So if anyone sees a neighbor that hasn't shoveled, then please report it through SeeClickFix, and the town will address it, and then we will ticket the homeowner that hasn't shoveled the snow. That's all I got.
Thank you, Steve. All set, Chris? Yes, thank you. Town Attorney's report?
Yes, thank you. We had hoped to have had a executive session with everyone on the status of all of the litigation involving the town, except we've had some illnesses in the town attorney's office and have not been able to put together a comprehensive one that makes sense. We could have done something fast, but we'd rather be accurate. And but if there's any emergencies or things of that nature, we would of course let everybody know immediately. We hope to have it ready for the next executive session, and our illnesses in the office are getting better. It wasn't me, but we have people that actually Sue is wonderful down there, but she still comes in even when she's sick, and she really shouldn't. So I actually sent her home one day, and then told her last Thursday I'd called Chris and said, is there any way to postpone it? Because I don't want her here doing this when she was in, a very bad cold or the flu. So he said, you already had something else, so that was wonderful. I sent her home and told her, don't come in Friday. Take the whole weekend, and hopefully you'll be better. And she's not quite better yet, but she's getting there. Anyway, and one of the things we talked about at the town attorney's office was how valuable Chris Bromson has been from when Mark first got there with him almost 35 years ago, and the relationship that's been there throughout. And I know that since I've been there and have known him from before, he's been extremely valuable to the town of Enfield and given countless selfless hours, whether he was town attorney, town manager, director of public safety, or even when he wasn't in those capacities and had a little bit of time off. He's always been Enfield's best friend. So we're happy to hear that he's going to stick around for another 5 or 6 months, whatever it was he said. And of course, between now and November is 9 months, so that's good news. And to that, I don't have anything else to add.
Thank you, Tom. Reports of special committees. Jim?
You want to do joint facilities first, and then I'll do yeah. Okay. Oh, so yes. So the first meeting of the pre-K, pre-referendum committee was this past week. It was an organizational meeting. We have elected or voted on our chair, which is Randy Daigle, and the vice chair, which is Tina LeBlanc. Had some really amazing discussions. Next meeting will be, I believe, following week, next week, and we're going to be able to tour the buildings again, go over some of the information that the Modernization Committee has done, and our superintendent and John Daig will be joining us as well. Had a lot of really good, positive conversation, and I'm really excited to get that committee underway.
John, do you have anything? Jim, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to report on the Joint Facilities Committee. Couple things. First of all, the library roof is about 50% completed, but due to the weather that we've had over the last couple of weeks, kind of the brakes have been put on the project, per the contractor. Can't work in that kind of weather. So that's about 50%. The paperwork for Elkhorn is into the state after being kicked back numerous times, so that's in now, and that's being looked at by the state for our reimbursement. Through the past year with Parkman, we went through first one assistant DPW director left, and now another DPW director has left. So the paperwork, and then on top of that, we lost the school superintendent too. So the paperwork the town had to keep redoing, new signatures, new people had to fill it out. And we're at the point for Parkman. And the question was brought up, if we submit for money for the roof and then it becomes part of the modernization referendum, and we go back to the state and look for more money. Are they going to say, no, you already been to the well once, you should have thought about this, should have had a plan? A question was sent in to the state asking if we would be at, would we jeopardize our chance of getting funding? And the question was sent back, and it didn't say yes, and it didn't say no. So we're at a point now where do we proceed with Parkman? It is my feeling that we should continue on with the paperwork because we've had so many problems. And I know we have other paperwork to do, like a 10-year plan. And I think we already did the 10-year plan.
I think it was, there was a facilities plan, like an overall facilities plan. I don't know if it was a 10-year plan or not, but I know that it would go very well into the 10-year plan that's going to come up
And
for
I
the
think,
school buildings
I
as
think
well.
John Daig did say there was, he thought there was one, or, and anyways, with the school referendum committee doing work to get in place, it's going to take some time, and then it has to be voted on and passed and everything else. I feel we should still proceed with the Parkman paperwork. I'm not saying Parkman roof, I'm saying submitting the Parkman paperwork for the roof in case something happens. At least we can see if we can get funding to fix the roof. That's, and I would like some direction.
So I see it that the voters voted on the roof for Parkman. It leaks. We've heard complaints since I've been back about the roof leaking. To what extent, I don't know. But I think if we don't put in the paperwork, it's a foolish move because the referendum has a long way to go. And what if the voters say no? And then the original committee came up with the conclusion that we cannot go up on any of our schools. So that means the other alternative is large additions. We'd still need a roof on the building. So at this point, unless the School Modernization Committee comes up with something different, how can it hurt to put the paperwork in and start moving forward on this project? I just don't want to waste any more time, talking about things and not getting them done. So I'm in full support, submit the paperwork for Parkman. Go ahead, Gina.
Whenever you're done.
I'm done.
I mean, I'm going to defer to the staff that has been dealing, I would like to defer to the staff that's been dealing with the state, and I think that was Donald, and I think John Daig is the one that came to the last meeting and sort of gave us probably doesn't make sense to do so. I don't know if we have somebody at the state that can give us a definitive answer, and I don't know if they are going to give us a definitive answer. I think what we'd like to not do is get in a situation where we do the roof and then end up having to either repay that or not get the reimbursement if we have to do it under the modernization. That being said, there's going to be a gap. We may have to do something in the lag time. I don't know. I don't have an issue submitting paperwork, but I think we really need to have a definitive answer on what reimbursement, what's our risk versus what's it going to cost us before we touch that roof.
So when and I don't know if you remember this, when Ellen was here, we went through this. And Ellen came up with, from the state, that it would be prorated, the reimbursement that we would owe back. And it's a 10-year. And we are 5 years out from construction to even start these elementary schools. So the worst that would happen is we'd be responsible to pay back half of the cost of the roof. And this was a year and a half ago. I don't know if you guys remember. That was on the floor. I think we talked about it. So it was great information that she got from us. And here we are a year and a half later talking about the same thing. So I'm okay if we end up having to pay for the roof, well, then we end up having to pay for it. But right now, let's get the roof on the school so the ceiling tiles don't happen to get soaking wet and possibly fall on a child. And, you know, let's do something because we're not sure about modernization. The end goal is it's up to the voters. And, you know, if they don't want to spend that much money and say no, now we just waited another year and a half. So that's where I'm at. So if we have consensus, again, because I think we've done this already with Parkman. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I would just, I kind of agree with what Gina said, that if we could maybe get some clarification from someone, I don't know who, just, that's all. That's all I ask.
All right. So is there consent? Go ahead, Jean.
So I'm back on school or on joint facilities. I was on joint facilities prior to even being a counselor, then on and off, then on. Anyways, the way I'm seeing it right now is we're swaying off of our path. The voters voted for a roof referendum. The roofs should be done. I agree with the mayor. I am praying that the referendum goes through and our elementary schools are brought up to date. There's always a chance it's going to fail. We don't want it to fail, but in the meantime, we can't have roofs continue to leak when the people of the town voted for them. I get asked all the time, we voted for this referendum, we didn't get it. The roofs aren't done.
Well, that's not true.
Well, they're being done, but it's, again, we should have started Parkman by now. I think we're veering off. I think it's the joint facilities job to bring forward the recommendations to the council. I am in consensus that we move forward with Parkman. So I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think we need to move forward with Parkman.
Is there consensus to move forward with Parkman roof like the voters voted for? Jeff is nodding. John?
Yes.
Cindy's a yes.
I want the experts to tell me what to do. I don't want to say.
Ellen gave us that a year and a half ago.
And do you know how much new legislation? I'm not saying Ellen was wrong, but I am telling you there is new legislation, new reimbursement rates, new requirements, new protocol. That has happened. I don't want to be responsible for doing a roof and then in 5 years having to redo a roof and getting tagged for it twice. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. John?
So can we just clarify that there's not something that's changed? Because I'm not disagreeing with you. I think if we're gonna, you know, if it's gonna be 10 years or 6 years before we build a new building, I'm not disagreeing with you. It would be nice to know how much we're at risk if we could just figure that out again, because.
So what they had said in joint facilities is they got a vague answer. Not yes, not no, not how much. Nobody's willing to commit to that. Ellen was the one who said, which is the most logical, it's still going to remain a school.
Yeah.
The original committee that we've all agreed to follow said we can't go up with these buildings, which means we have to go out. So the original school's still going to need the roof that we have. Worst case, they got to peel up a corner of it where they tie in the new building to it. And if we end up having to pay, it's, you know, prorated. We're only going to be on the hook for 4 years left of it. So,
I would just state too that.
And just what is the cost of the roof? Can you just, what?
I want to.
Is it $1.5 million or $2 million? How much is the roof?
I don't have my joint facilities.
For some reason, I got 3 million in my head.
3 million for just Parkman?
Hey, am I wrong, Gina?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
3 million?
Town manager says.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, perhaps I could offer, I think there's a consensus to file the paperwork, but there's still a concern. We don't want to we've gotten a wishy-washy answer. If I can get that letter that you make reference to in my office tomorrow, I'll make efforts, and with the town attorney, to reach out. If they won't give us any other information, I can report it back at leadership, and if you then want us to file the paperwork, we can. But if they say no, we can get, no, you're going to, I can come back. I'm just saying if there's no new information. And also, I would just say this, John, and not to interrupt you, but in regard to Nathan Hale, that was a big impediment in selling that building because we owed $300 grand. And I will just tell you, that's where Representative Hall went to the legislature because it was a unique circumstance, such as this one, and they forgave it. So I'm just saying that's not a guarantee, but perhaps as long as we dot our I's, cross our T's, and we let them know we're doing this, but we hope in the future, 6-7 years, we can at least be on file to say we would ask for a waiver at that point because we just did this in good faith and you couldn't give us a definitive answer. And then I think we'd address all of our concerns.
Well, now we have 2 state reps fighting for us.
Yeah, and no, and that's true. But
Yeah.
so if Maurice is right, she says it's $1.8 million. I just would like to understand how much we're at risk and what the amortization looks like. I really would just like clarification on that because I think it's important that we understand.
1.8.
Yeah, as of January 2024, Phase 1 was 1,000,008, and Phase 2 would be about 506.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we're doing it in phases.
I do have that email, I believe it was given to me, and we don't meet again till the 13th of March, so.
You can forward it to me.
Yes.
And I don't know, John, we can look at the amortization because I'm sure it's the same. So you figure if it's for 10 years, it's $2 million, it's probably 200 grand a year that drop off. That's what, but let's find out to make sure.
So regardless of what your answer is, prorated or whatever, we have consensus, put the roof on the building. Because 6 years, I mean, what's the life of a roof? 20 years on a school? Yeah, so it's almost half. So I'm not willing to take the chance. We've all agreed. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, real quick, just point of order. We did vote on this, so it is so whatever, right, to the mayor's point, whatever is decided, it's got to come back here. Then it's not a joint facility decision. It's a council because we did vote on it. Just want to be clear.
No, it worked out well
clear.
because they did all of the footwork and now it comes to you and I can make a couple inquiries and report back and then the council can decide. But I hear loud and clear that you want to do the roof, absent some big negative we're not aware of.
Representative Hall just texted me. She will be on it first thing tomorrow morning, and she will contact you and get us an answer.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, thank you. John, so maybe if you can get with Carol so you guys are on the same page. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Council, are we still doing counselor communication? Or,
No.
Special, yeah, okay, committee. I know what I'm doing. Okay, I have one thing that I'm kind of looking for a consensus or guidance on. It's come to me several different times about the little piece of land that sits right there across from the old fire station. It's gone back and forth, gone back and forth. There's been vagrancy complaints. The community police officers have spoken to me about it. I've been reached out by residents. So what I'm asking for is, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know what to do. I really don't. It's not, if we could have a consensus to send this issue to public safety so that it could be talked about there. So I do know, according to the community police, that they expect more vagrancy there. And it's hard to handle it. So I don't know what to do about it. I'd like it to go to the special committee, to public safety, if everybody's in agreement with me, so that they can do something with it, and I've done my job.
Understood. We did discuss it, leadership. I think that's prudent. And for those folks who don't know, we're talking across, downtown here where a lot of people congregate. There's a question of ownership. Should we make it a park? Should we make it non-loitering? All we're trying to do is to rehabilitate the area and make sure the businesses and the residents there aren't adversely impacted by people gathering and loitering where they shouldn't. So we're on it. I commend it to be sent public safety. We'll discuss it there. And then just like the last item, we can come back to the council and make a determination as to how we want to proceed. A lot of it's going to rely, I think, upon the legal opinion of the town attorney, who really owns the access. And thank you, Marie and the mayor. schooling me about, it's really a bridge abutment, but it really has soil on top of it. That's really what we're dealing with. But it is a congregation area, and it's not a good situation.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, unfinished business of the council. There is none. New business, the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Next is the appointments of the Town Council Patriot Award Committee. A vacancy exists due to the resignation of Deborah McCarthy, unaffiliated. Recommendation is Peter Burke, and I think it's supposed to be independent, but it says it, until 7/31/2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of closing nominations? Okay. All in favor of Peter Burke? It's unanimous. Next, Prison Liaison Committee. The term of office of Kenneth Edgar, Democrat, expires 2/28/2025. Reappointment would be until 2/28/2027.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
All in favor of closing nominations? And then all in favor of Ken Edgar? Welcome back, Ken. Prison Town Liaison Committee, the term of office of Nancy Harvey, unaffiliated, expires 2/28/2025. Reappointment would be until 2/28/2027. Are there any other nominations?
Second.
Move they be closed.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? And all in favor of Nancy Harvey? It's unanimous. Next is a resolution to authorize the foreclosure of the property maintenance fines for 122 Windsor Street. So this was the property. John, you want to cover this?
Yeah. So, Mr. Mayor, first, if you could just, you have to read the is there a resolution?
It's on the back, the second
Yeah,
page.
the second page.
Oh, be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the foreclosure of 122 Windsor Street for the property maintenance fines associated with this property maintenance lien recorded September 24th, 2021 at volume 2814, page 629, date prepared 2/10/2025.
So moved.
Prepared by the Office of Economic and Community Development.
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so I'm sure that this was discussed in caucus, with your caucus as it was with ours. This has been a long-standing blighted property. It's been going on for a year and a half at this point. The owner has been before the Blight Committee a number of times, has just never been able to remedy the problem. The mayor, who sits on the Blight Committee with me, we've been to the house, we've been to see the progress or to see the lack of progress. The owner just doesn't have any interest in remedying this, and so the Blight Committee unanimously voted to send this to the council with this recommendation.
Is Gina? Oh, you're all set? Okay. Anybody else? I don't think we have. Go ahead, Mike.
Chrissy, just for the record, I mean, the town and your department, I mean, again, we really tried to make this work. I mean, so I think this really has taken, I mean, like I said, we've really tried to find a solution other than this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, if you want, I know you've been working on this for a while. I mean, just to let folks know, this has taken time. I know we've said it, but your office has really tried to make this work.
That is correct. Yeah, we have met with the owner numerous times, and that's why I'm up here. Actually, he was in my office today. So one of the discussion items with the Blight Review Committee at our meeting on the 6th of this month was that if the owner was able to sell the property in the time that the foreclosure was in process, that we would be able to go in front of you guys as again and see if we can either stop the foreclosure, reduce the fines, waive the fines. That can be a discussion at that point. But when he was in my office today, he actually brought me a signed purchase and sales agreement. Awesome. So he is very ready to move past this. So I let him know the vote is still going to be happening tonight with the foreclosure, and whether these run side by side. It's just something that you guys will still vote on tonight and possibly pursue for the foreclosure. However, if he is able to move this sale along, I won't go into the details of this purchase and sale, but it does have a closing date of April 30th, 2025 or sooner. So they want to move on it as well. I know that he's been in talks with them. And again, I won't go over too much of the details for him, but he's ready for this to move forward, and I'll keep you guys posted. He's going to keep me up to date. I'll keep him up to date as well with our process.
Again, well done. Just to reassure people with the blight ordinance that you guys showed patience, mercy, and all the things that we should do as a government. So again, thank you. I just want to make sure you had a chance to let people know that. So thank
definitely.
you. Yeah.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Sakala.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Thank you, Sheila. Okay, next is the resolution to authorize the foreclosure of the property maintenance fines for 66 Fletcher Road. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the foreclosure of 66 Fletcher Road for the property maintenance fines associated with the property maintenance liens recorded December 30th, 2021 in volume 2826, page 213, and outstanding real estate taxes. Date prepared 2/10/2025, prepared by Office of Economic and Community Development.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. You want me to take this one?
No, I'll go.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
well, so this is another one coming from the Blight Committee. This is one where staff has been diligently trying to get this taxpayer to come and discuss their situation. They have not done so. They have been unresponsive. And as you can see, there are past due taxes and sewer fees. After a prolonged period of trying to reach this property owner, the Blight Committee came forward with this recommendation to take this action.
Thank you. Questions? Go ahead, Mike.
Again, thank you. I have to admit, now that I see the pictures of this, so this is more of a not paying their taxes as opposed, because again, another man's trash, another man's gold. This house doesn't look that bad to me. I mean, when it comes to blight, it's more of, again, it sounds like they didn't pay their sewer fee ever, right?
And if you look at the
Taxes.
Yeah, so with this property, technically it's still in violation. Yeah, there's no sewer on this property, so that's specifically just back taxes, the 12 grand. For this property, it's technically still in violation because there's more than one. You can see on the pictures, I have it from face on where technically they didn't paint the top part of the structure, and then from the side, you could see the back that the siding's off as well. So
Okay.
there's taxes due, and also there is technically blight that is still outstanding. We haven't received a complaint on it in a few years. However, when we were going back on all of our past violations, this is one that was technically still outstanding. So it does have a total of about $93,000.
To our tax lawyer that, don't.
So it wouldn't be a tax sale. This is specifically, we're foreclosing on the property maintenance liens. However, there are also outstanding taxes, so those will be included in the
Okay.
total amount.
Thank you very much for the explanation.
Yep.
So just to give you a little heads up on this one, Mike, we agree with you. Looking at that alone, we're like, no, we're splitting hairs now. And a big problem is the house across the street, and we really had a problem. And then when we found out there's zero communication, they haven't paid taxes in years and years and years on the property. They've gone, they've knocked, they've mailed, they've done everything. We kind of have no choice at this point. You know, it's almost like they're done with the property. Plus, what you don't see is there's another building over here that's collapsed and imploded on itself on the property.
Got it, okay.
All right?
Fair
So
enough. Yep, fair enough.
we agree with you. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. 4. Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Sikala.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Okay, next is the resolution to authorize the waiver of property maintenance fines for 11 Ridgefield Road. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize a waiver of $89,424 in property maintenance fines and the release of the property maintenance liens for the property at 11 Ridgefield Road. Date prepared 2/10/2025, prepared by the Office of Economic and Community Development. Now, this one is the opposite.
We need to do some.
Oh.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Thanks, John. Now, this one is the opposite. This is a success story of Christie and her hard work, notifying the people, getting them to come in. We met with them. We went through everything, gave him a list of things to do. He promised to do them. Sure enough, he came in. They were done. And so the property looks great. Neighbors shouldn't be upset now. And we agreed to work with him if he cleaned it up, and he did. So now we're asking you guys to back the decision we made. So that's where that is. Mike?
Yeah, thank you. Is it, and again, a suggestion, right? Because this is the good stuff that, again, you do and the committee does, and the whole point of why we did it. Do you put it anywhere on, so you're, I know, please don't get mad at me, your title, but in your, like, on your webpage, here is a success story, right?
Yeah, that's actually something I've been thinking about, because I know we have Troubled Property group that meets every month, and I like to kind of showcase a few that have been success stories. I believe in Blight Review, I've done it as well. It is something I would love to do. I mean, if I could definitely do that.
I might interrupt and assist. I think it's a incredibly good idea. And tomorrow you'll come to our staff meeting, if please, and we'll incorporate this. Because as you know, we've been pushing this stuff out on our public platforms. I'll have Stephanie there, and we'll do this. You can put it on your site, and we'll also put it on ours and all of our social media so people know the good work you're doing in the town.
I agree.
Thank you,
This
Mike.
is what government's supposed to do, in my opinion, right? So thank you, and again, for the committee and you, because again, I know this is not easy, and I know it's a little tedious, but, I mean, again, when someone cleans up their property and we move on, that's the best story, in my opinion.
I agree.
So thank you.
So, along with what Mike's saying, this is, I think one of the biggest complaints that I receive, I don't know about the rest of you, is blighted properties. My neighbor's house. And how come we're not doing anything about it? I called you a month ago. I called you 2 months ago. And people don't understand. We have laws we have to follow. Christie has to serve with notices. It takes time. Different things like cutting grass is different than actual blight of a property. We have regulations we have to follow, serve them everything, and they still don't have to do anything. And when they don't do anything, that's when these fines accrue. On the same token, they can get the notice, fix it, and not be aware they have to call and get a reinspection to stop the fines. And the fines end up accruing for years, and that's what leads us to situations like this. So this is Christie trying to clean up. I mean, we have properties that are still blighted today, and they owe $370,000 in fines on them. We're not going to get them fixed. We have no choice. Nobody lives in the house. It's abandoned. We have no choice but to foreclose on it. You know, Fletcher Road, it's abandoned. You know, no communication, no nothing, no taxes paid. So this is our last resort. The gentleman on Windsor Street, he didn't have a plan in place. And then as he was leaving, he said, if I had it my way, I would sell it and move down south. That's a plan. And that's when we, Blight, sat back down and had a discussion with the man. But it will be released, or we will ask you to stop the foreclosure and release the fines the day of a legit closing. Not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous about him having a contract in 6 days or whatever it was. Hey, Joe, let me sell it to my brother, you know? So again, it's gotta be an arm's length transaction, so, you know, multiple listings, fair market value, this and that. So, but I think it's a huge success. And Christy, it's all on you, 100%. And it's been a rough road. You had a lot of things to clean up, but you should be really proud for what you've done, because I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Counselor Hendrickson. 4. Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Sakala.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is a resolution to hold a public hearing regarding the Municipal Redevelopment Authority. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby schedule a public hearing regarding joining the Municipal Redevelopment Authority program to be held on March 3rd, 2025 at 6:55 p.m. in Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, in order to receive public comment. Date prepared 2/10/2025, prepared by Aaron Markovich, Director of Economic and Community Development.
Mr. Mayor, I know the hour's growing late. We did have an opportunity to discuss this in executive session in regard to one of our properties we're considering developing. And what this is another tool that the state is now offering, this MRDA. It's an offshoot of another program with the state, but it's designed specifically for development and giving money to people, or I should say towns, that have transit-oriented development like our train station. So our very capable economic development director, who finds more of these things than I even thought existed. I said, go out there and sniff out every loan and grant and program in the state and federal government, and you see the emails. He's doing that. But there's $60 million in the kitty. We were told this evening now there's $90 million in the kitty. So we don't have to get into much detail. We will have the public hearing if you so vote tonight. He will invite a representative from MRDA to explain it, and basically it just puts us in line in the future. This wouldn't be for years until after the train station, but again, it's our ticket to ride.
Oh, he is on the ball tonight.
I'm leaving.
Is that 6 months now? Every time we get another month?
Drop the mic.
So, Mr. Mayor, just a point of order. We didn't have a motion and a second, so I'll move on this, and there's a second. Okay, sorry.
Motion made and seconded.
Thank you, John.
Now you got to do that whole thing over again, Chris.
So next time Aaron will be here, we'll have the representative here, and then you can actually, that would be the empowering resolution. This is just to set the hearing, and we didn't want to lose any time, so we ask that you set it.
My concern with this, Chris, is what is the public hearing for? Because that's what the public's hearing right now. No, I understand, Aaron.
What I was going to add.
This is set at 6:55, and our regular council meeting's at 7. So that's 5 minutes for him to do a full presentation on what these people are coming to us to talk about.
I thought we'd give him 30 seconds.
Oh, right
and
now?
No. You can let him come up. But what we normally do, we'll promote it and say what it is, so that you're right. When people, they say the public hearing, but I didn't know what it was about. So we were going to post tomorrow that this is what it is, and that this is the public hearing.
Okay.
But I didn't look at the time. You're right. We need more time than that if we're going to have a guest.
I just would like Aaron to, all of us, I think we are, 6:30.
And that's fine. We can certainly do a 6:30 for this to do the whole presentation then. We were thinking about it differently. We were thinking we'd do the presentation as part of the regular council meeting or as a special guest. As you'll see in the resolution, the resolution basically says, yes, we will join. It's not a very complicated resolution, which is why we went for the 6:55, but I'm happy to do 6:30. David Corris from MRDA will be here and give a nice slideshow.
Right, and it's I understand the resolution's simple, but we will join what? We will join what? That's what the residents are hearing right now.
We'll put this together tomorrow, and we'll put it on. We'll get a blip, the talking points from
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Mr.
Just ask, so aren't we doing this kind of backwards? Shouldn't we have the presentation so people know what it is and then have a public hearing?
That's what I'm saying, John.
Yeah, no, but on a different day.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I
we're saying the same
so,
thing.
Like, it's. No, I'm
We can do
agreeing.
that.
I think it's.
We do it, we do it all.
This week. That's
Getting
The only reason it was proposed this way was because this is how David had recommended going through the process, so.
And we've done them 6 1/2, so whatever the council's comfortable with,
Whatever
we
you're
can do it either
comfortable
way.
Well,
wanna have
on
a pre-
this, I think if Aaron gives his presentation and they post like they're doing tomorrow, I think we should be okay, but you're 100%
Going
right, John.
forward, we'll do the presentation first, and then we know if we want to do it, and then we'll have the public hearing.
Yeah.
We can still, if you want to do that and just put this back on in 2 weeks for the presentation and do it, I'm not going to say the right way, but do it that way, it's not a real rush. This isn't going to happen for years.
Right, so we could have a presentation at the
Yeah,
next meeting, and then
absolutely.
the following
Right.
meeting.
Set the public hearing next
set the
meeting
public
if we
meeting
want
and
to.
then do it for the following week.
Okay.
So
All right,
that's
I'll
right.
entertain a motion to table this till
Yeah.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Second.
And I apologize on here, he's new.
No,
and
that's all right.
I'm kidding. Thank you, Aaron.
Only a year in.
Thank you, Christy. See, Christy, you got yours through. He didn't. Good job.
I don't want to say it,
Next is a resolution to approve the proposed pay rates for summer, seasonal, and temporary employees in the Recreation Division effective July 1st, 2025. I'm assuming that's supposed to say?
Yes. Correct.
Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 14 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the attached pay rates for summer, seasonal, and temporary employees in the Recreation Division effective July 1st, 2025. Date prepared, 2/5/2025, prepared by Steve Belinda, Assistant Town Manager.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? Roll call.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary. 4. And Counselor Sakala.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Next, items for discussion. Seeing none. Any other business proper to come before said meeting? Seeing none. Public communications. Ma'am?
Kelsey McGuire Bruce, 63 Nealons Road. Since 21-22, the gap compared to the state average was reduced or eliminated. This is from the superintendent's presentation. Grades 3 through 8 ELA reduced by 40%. Grades 3 through 8 math reduced by 42.6%. Grade 11 ELA SAT reduced by 87.5%, and it continues. The supports we've put in place are evidence of progress, and while it's clear that things were moving in the right direction, we all must understand that improvements do take time, Mr. Ludwig. While I don't particularly care for the word victim, as you used, Mr. Mayor, it's undeniable that anyone impacted by the Enfield Public Schools cuts has been affected by them. They are, in essence, victims of those financial decisions. Please move away from framing this as us needing to be bailed out. We've explained, the Board of Ed has explained time and time again that nothing went terribly wrong. The issues were simply unforeseen expenses that were not predicted, and they've been transparent about that. The new budget is more transparent and detailed as you've asked. So hopefully it will help you support what is asked by the Board of Ed. Lastly, I must point out the fact that no one else seems allowed to speak directly to someone, but you can, Mr. Mayor. You called out a teacher who left this 3-hour meeting early. You essentially just threatened our teachers' union, regardless of how it will be spun. Is that really the kind of leadership we should be seeing?
Thank you. Anyone else? Ma'am? Zach? No? Councilman Communications.
say something.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
So I just forgot one thing under special committees. Commission on Aging, we spoke about at the last meeting. At the last meeting, they did decide how to disperse the funds. Cindy Guerreri said she was going to take care of it and email you. Not sure if she has or not. But again, they did put it to a vote, and I think we'll be happy with it. But I didn't see it tonight. I forgot to mention it in leadership, so. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
Yes, I want to say something.
Oh, Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. I meant to speak on this earlier, but I think that it's very important at this time to reiterate what you said, Mayor Nelson, about Christy and Aaron. They are doing a bang-up job. There are some grants and programs that even I haven't heard of, and I've been around the block a few times. We really need to praise their work, and I want to make it public that I, for one, support all of their hard work, and they're doing a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Motion.
Thank you. Everybody have a great night.